Welcome into a special live edition of Stone Cold Shows. I'm Brandon Strange with Charlie Palillo and Josh Jordan. They are at Palillo and at Josh Jordan 975 on X. And in between our podcast episodes here, you can read their blogs covering all things Houston sports over on sportsmap.com. On today's episode, the Astros pull out the brooms against the Phillies in Houston. With the Cubs on deck, we'll take a look back at where the Astros are now without Kyle Tucker, and we react to the news of JP3's failed extension negotiations and the implications with that. But before all that, if you want to show your support for the channel, it's really easy. Just hit like on the video right now. That's first. Second, subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't yet, just as importantly, click that bell for notifications so you know as soon as new content drops. And if you prefer to listen to your podcast, we're on all your favorite podcast apps. Just search Stone Cold Stros. Charlie, Josh, welcome in. Look, we came into this opening series of this 2-week gauntlet of games excited about what this could tell us about how Houston stacks up against some of the NL's best top contenders. First test passed. Houston's offense didn't do much, didn't need to. Defense was pretty good. Pitching was damn near perfect, surrendering just one run on a sac fly. The opposing end of the spectrum in which the Astros offense and pitching exist were perfectly encapsulated, I think, in this series, where Houston's pitching shuts out the Phils for, I think, like 25 and a third innings, while on the other side, Houston scratched just 4 runs across during that same period, 5 in total, and closed the series with Jake Meyers hitting in the cleanup spot. And that's by no means shade towards him. Charlie, what were your takeaways from this hard-fought duel of pitching staffs?
You covered the dichotomy. Offense, stinky. Pitching, magnificent. The Astros score 5 runs in 3 games, 17 hits in 3 games. They sweep the series. Thursday, the biggest hits were hit by pitches from Phillies pitchers that led to each of the Astros 2 runs. You throw in 1 timely hit from Yainer Diaz, who's been horrible of late, and the game-winning timely hit from Cam Smith, who adds to his burgeoning is probably a little strong word, but growing brief resume of clutch moments. The pitching's just been beyond magnificent, and what this series did, it really amplified what I talked about early in the week. The Astros record is absolutely incredible when the offense isn't good. Now in games that they've scored 3 or fewer runs, they are 18-26. And as covered last go-round, sure, that's a losing record. That doesn't sound good. That's awesome that they've won 41% of their games when scoring 3-2-1. Obviously, you win 0 of your games when you score 0 runs. But 18-26, numbers can be just numbers without perspective, context. Last season, when the Astros scored 3 or fewer runs for the season, they finished 12-55. 12-55. This year, they already have 18 wins against just 26 losses. The other upper crust teams in baseball, we leave the Tigers out because for some silly reason, they only put out their record with 4 or fewer runs. And I'm a numbers geek, but I wasn't going to tabulate all this stuff manually. The Astros have 18 wins when scoring 3 or fewer runs, 18-26. The Phillies, after eating 3 such losses here, they're 11-22. That's good. The Cubs, 10-22. The Mets, 10-21. The Dodgers and Yankees, 8-22 when scoring 3 or fewer runs. The Astros are 18-26. I don't have deep historical context on this, but this is otherworldly. Year to year, it's not remotely sustainable, but you can surf a wave season long sometimes, just like in 1-run games, where the Astros are now 17-7 after last season going 18-27. For the entire season, they won 18 1-run games. This year, at now the exact halfway point, post-Phillies, pre-Cubs, they already have 17 1-run games. Pitching. It's one of the all-time overrated axioms about baseball. Pitching is 90% baseball. The Astros damn sure making it look like it's true to this point, on pace for 96 wins at the halfway point.
truly amazing. Typically, I would want to jump in and be like, "Oh, the hitting wasn't so great." No, I'm not doing that, man. The Phillies, they came at it with their studs in their pitching rotation, just like the Astros did. You feel like you got Fromber and Hunter Brown in a 3-game series. You like your chances, but the Phillies, they came with their firepower too. So runs were tough to come by on both sides of the ball, but the Astros, they found a way to win. They found a way to get timely hits, get on base, play, defense when you needed. I thought Pena had some great plays on defense. Just an amazing performance from the guys. And you're going against a quality team, a team you faced in the World Series. These teams know each other pretty well. And a lot of people will be like, "Oh, there's no Bryce Harper." Well, there was no Yordan Alvarez either. So those things kind of balance out, right? So I'm just here to give credit to the Astros. They've been so much better in tight games. It's nice to see Cam Smith. I think he's got a little clutch gene to him as a young player. That's really exciting to see. We already know he's playing a great right field. I'm loving what I'm seeing from him. Paredes, all the usual contributors, they're doing their thing. So, I mean, what else is there to say? The Astros, they just look like they had that killer instinct this year. They're really gelling. And, some seasons the ball kind of bounces your way. Sometimes it doesn't. Last year was one of those seasons where it never seemed to click. This year, it feels like it's clicking at the highest level. And I'm excited what the future holds. This isn't just this team could win the AL West. This is one of the best teams in baseball right now.
And of course, the worm could turn on all this stuff. But what is with 81 down, 81 to go. The offense is 9th in the American League in runs scored. The pitching now is up to number 2, nudging ahead of Kansas City for the best earned run average. The bullpen just continues to be stupendously good. But more than anything else, it's about the front of the rotation. Hunter Brown goes out, takes a tough no decision. But when he and Framber Valdez pitch, the Astros are probably going to win. And yeah, they need to hold up for another half, but they are what Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole were for the 2019 Astros when they finished 1-2 for Cy Young. That season, Cole and Verlander combined for a 2.44 earned run average, or close to that. I scribbled it somewhere. Fromber and Hunter Brown combined so far this season are 2.40 with their earned run average, right? Hunter Brown just continues to sink his lower, 174 at the halfway point. When Verlander ran away with the Cy Young in 22, he finished at 175, right? Fromber's sub-2 over his last 9 starts. So they are the bedrocks of the operation. But then you throw in the Wednesday game, just the 3rd game in baseball history where a team throws 5 pitchers all left-handed in a game. I'm pretty sure it's the only such example in the history of the sport where the game ended in a shutout victory. So they just have a lot of good stuff going on. A 6-game lead over the Mariners heading into the weekend. And to spit in the face of the 90% of baseball is pitching thing, the only team the Astros are behind in ERA in the AL, the Texas Rangers. The hitless wonders aren't so wonderful no matter how good their pitching is. The Astros are 9th, no great shakes, but that's not deplorable.
Yeah, so many lefty options in this rotation, at least on the arm side. Somewhere Dusty Baker is murmuring to himself, and it might actually be about this. It was a magnificently pitched series by both sides. On the offensive side, by my math, and you can double check me, but Altuve, Paredes, Walker, and Diaz were a combined 5 for 35 in this series. So not a lot of output from those guys, but obviously just enough hitting. Obviously Cooper Hummel, a hero in this series. Do you guys look at this series and you say, hey, this pitching staff can hold its own with the best? Or do you more view this as you series? It's like, man, Houston's staff has to be perfect to beat these good teams. Or do you more look at it and say, hey, they got enough offense without Yordan, they'll be better with him?
Look, in a short series, the Astros can beat anybody, just as anyone else can beat the Astros. It's how baseball works. It's why the job is to get into the postseason, ideally avoid the best out of 3 that saw the Astros' quick demise, courtesy of the Tigers last year. Well, now they've nudged ahead of the Yankees. That figures to be a spirited race the second half of the season. It's not as if Seattle can't get hot again. That's a team that won 18 out of 24 games earlier this season. Very analogous to the jag the Astros are on at this point. But with Fromber Hunter 1-2 or Hunter Fromber 1-2, certainly in a best of 5, where they would get to start a minimum of 3 of the games, 4 of the games in a best of 7. You gladly take your chances and just hope that your offense does enough. And let's doff the cap to the other constant with this Astros team: excellent defense. And as a stickler for accuracy and details, Fromber and Hunter Brown, 2.33 between them at the break. 2019, Cole and Verlander between them finished at 254. So by those numbers, Fromber, Hunter for half a season, better than what JV and Cole were when they went 1-2 for the Cy Young Award.
Speaking of that, Chandler Rome tweeted out something kind of similar, that the lowest ERA after 16 starts in a season in Astros history: Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens, Verlander, and Brown. And Brown's at the 1.74 we talked about, and Verlander right in front of him at 1.6. So that's pretty elite company right there. Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens, and Verlander. So you got to like what you're seeing there. And you're right, Brandon. Guys like Paredes, Altuve, some of them didn't have very good series, but it's when you get it. Paredes got on base so that Cam Smith could drive him in to win this series. That was a big part of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Cam Smith was down like 0-2 in that count and worked his way back, if I remember correctly. So that's a big, grown-up, mature type at bat to work your way back into a favorable count and get that big hit. Just get it over the shortstop. Reminded me of maybe one of Bregman's big hits right over the shortstop back in the day. I was a little worried about Paredes trying to score with that hamstring. I was like, oh, come on, man. Push it through. Get there. Don't hurt yourself. So it's when you get the hits, Brandon. And this was a tight series, as I mentioned earlier. Great pitching on both sides. It's about who's going to get it done. The Astros got it done when it mattered most.
And this first half of the season should put to bed any idea of, well, the Astros, it's some sort of voodoo hex on them at home. They were a much better home team last season than they were in 2023. They were better on the at home than on the road last season. The Astros hit the 50-50 point of this schedule. They played 14 home series. They've lost one of them. But the Giants swept them 3 the first week of the season. Since then, the Astros have won every home series plus 1 split in there, 30-13 at Daikin Park.
Yeah, and to get to this point, all they had to do was lose their best hitter and 3/5 of their starting rotation to be this good. Look, Cubs on deck pose a different threat. They give 4th in home runs in the league, 2nd in RBI and all MLB. Houston comes into Friday's matchup tied with them for the 3rd best record overall. If Houston can somehow grab another series win, we talked about how the NL is so much more of a stacked league. The competition stiffer there. Well, you've disposed of the Phillies. You've got the Cubs on deck next. If they can somehow grab this series win, does this put the league on notice about who the Astros are, or have they already done that?
I mean, for me, I don't know if they need to make a statement against the Cubs. I think as long as you don't backslide and get swept by the Cubs, I think you're there. So as long as they just look respectable, I think the league already knows about the Astros. You see all the inevitable stuff everywhere. Guys like Ben Verlander just keep posting it all over social media and making everybody upset, which I don't mind at all. So I don't think they have to. As long as they just win a game in the Cubs series, I think they'll be fine. They've made their statement, especially their reinforcements that are going to be coming back where they are right now. I think people know who the Astros are, and they should be very afraid.
Fully agree. The Astros track record, even with the turnover personnel is what it is. The Astros don't make a bigger, bolder statement by sweeping the Cubs than there should be. Fraud alert if the Cubs come in here and sweep. It's a 3-game series in late June. You hope for positive results. Mariners playing the Rangers. Anytime the Astros win this weekend means they're furthering the distance between themselves and one of the teams behind them. I think Seattle's the one to be at least mildly wary of. And then there's also the element of the right fielder's name for the Cubs coming to town, and that relief pitcher guy.
Yeah, and so let's talk about it, because you mentioned the turnover in personnel. The roster for the Cubs carries 2 former pillars of Houston's last championship, and Tucker and Ryan Presley. Obviously, Tucker being the highlight of that trade over the offseason. What does it say about this team as they prepare tribute videos for these guys coming in, and they played a really important part. And that's not even to mention Bregman, who is also now a part of trade discussions that are happening now, with considering where Boston's at now, and maybe there's talk of him opting out of his deal. There's talk of him possibly being traded before the deadline because of that opt-out potential. But what does it say about this Houston organization that in spite of all of that, they find themselves right smack dab in the middle of the best teams in baseball?
I think the culture word can get overused, but boy, the Astros are the beacon for saying not always. With the talent drain over years, and they just plug and play. Now, granted, right, for the run the Astros are presently on, the last 2 seasons, they have not been of the same caliber of the clubs that won 101, 103, 106, and 107 games, but still good enough to keep going to American League Championship Series, save 2024, and get in the dance and give themselves a chance year after 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 year. I think that's 8. And at this point, you don't want to use the word lock in late June, but by any mathematical metrics, the Astros are over 90% to make the playoffs. Right? The Mariners right now would be the 3rd wild card. They're barely over 500 in the American League. So the Astros have a 6-game lead in the division and better than 6 games for the 3rd wild card. If something goes haywire and it's, well, at least get in the playoffs. So they're just wonderfully positioned. And all the straw that they seem to spin into gold with the pitching staff, Colt Gordon, another good outing, Bennett Sousa has been money as one more lefty in the bullpen, as somewhere Dusty Baker chews his fingernails. I can get one lefty in the pen. I can get one lefty. Now the Astros just throw another lefty out and his ERA will be below 2. On the returning guys, Tucker's been outstanding. OPS over 900. It's a win-win trade. Right? The Cubs needed a big star, a message for the club, a message for the fan base, and to act like a big boy market team, at least briefly. We'll see if they pony up $400 million or wherever the bidding goes. The Astros' long-term win potential on this trade obviously is enormous with Cam Smith, and Paredes has been outstanding. Isaac Paredes this season has been a better player than Alex Bregman was in any of the last 5 years, and Bregman now for a month plus has done nothing. So Dana Brown can preen or strut at this point if he wants to on that. And Presley, it was time for him to go. The Astros needed to move money. Presley's actually doing all right with Chicago. You look at the ERA and go 3.90, relief pitcher thing. He had one outing where he got 0 outs and was charged with 8 earned runs. His 31 other appearances, his ERA is 1.50. So it'll be great moments for both. I would not recommend the Astros playing Johnny Cash if Presley comes in the 8th inning, unless maybe the Astros are up 9-2 or something at the time.
Yeah, I think with Tucker, he's a great player, obviously, but what do the Astros get in return right now? You've got your 2-hole hitter and your 5-hole hitter in return for Tucker. Plus, you got a pitcher that was pitching well. He got hurt. So you have to love the return on that. As good as Tucker's been, well, Cam and Paredes are 2 of your very best hitters, 2 for the price of 1, if you will. And then looking at the bullpen, it's funny with Hader, people forget last year that Presley had a better ERA than Hader did last season. Everybody likes to crap on what Presley did last year, but he actually had a better ERA. But then you turn around and, as Charlie pointed out, Presley's been good, but the Astros haven't skipped a beat. Hader's been maybe arguably the most dominant closer in baseball this year. Abreu had 4 strikeouts in the finale today. He comes in, not just 4 outs, he strikes out all 4 guys. Unbelievable. And then King has been terrific this year. So you're 7, 8, 9 guys, and then you mentioned Sousa and all these other guys. I mean, it's been really impressive that you lose a guy like Presley and the Astros bullpen somehow got better.
And I think the other huge potential win element on the trade is if moving off Kyle Tucker means that when they count the beans and crunch the numbers, and Jim Crane authorizes the Astros to make an at least close to market bid to retain Framber Valdez, who's in his 5th consecutive season as an excellent starting pitcher, He'll be 32 years old when he throws the first pitch of his next contract. So you don't want to be going 7, 8 years, Max Fried. And you can understandably be scared to death. Well, Corbin Burns been better than Fromber and no older than Fromber, and the Diamondbacks give him 6 years, $210 million, and not even halfway through year one, his arm falls off. Well, you know what? Some of Major League Baseball and big-time sports are high-stakes poker. It would not be reckless to go to 5 years, $150 million on Fromber. Now, if someone else is going to go 7, $225, but if the Tucker money is all cleared out, right, and Cam Smith plays for the minimum for the next 2 years, Paredes is an arbitration salary guy year to year for the next 2 years, the saddlebag should have money in there for Fromber with the other dollars, Abreu, Presley, Montero, melting away from the payroll for 2026. Finally.
Yeah, and I'm not going to hold my breath on a competitive bid for Fromber, but I want to go back to Josh's point, though, because Houston didn't just get two of their best hitters in return for Tucker. They got two of their best defenders on a team full of elite defense. Just a quick message. If you're interested in advertising your service or product on this show, you can contact our friends on the sales team at houston.sportsmat.com/advertise. The link is also in our description. That kind of rolls into the Fromber comment kind of rolls into this next topic, because this week we got the story by Ari Alexander that broke, talking about how Houston and JP3 were in the midst of contract negotiations when that broke down, and he hired Scott Boras, and then negotiations broke down. But whatever the order was, it essentially, the negotiations came to a halt. So that, I wanted to ask you guys, was Pena hiring Boras the death knell of JP3 getting an extension in Houston?
I'm not going to go death knell. I mean, obviously, it does make you go, oh, they're going to lock him up. Just look at the pattern. And at some point, you'd say, well, okay, you finally reached that critical mass of enough talent left that it really takes the team down. Will Pena be that guy? I mean, if you wanted to lock him in at a mega bucks deal now, talk about buying high. I mean, Pena has been awesome, right? He's probably a top 3 AL MVP player at this point. It's also way, way better than he's been to this point in his career, save the 2022 postseason. So not only would you want to see it over a full season, you might want to see it into a second season. And Jim Crane has been so disciplined. And some would say cheap. Cheap's not fair. Their payroll's top 11 every year. It's in the top 10 this year. And by the way, so have been the results every year. I think Jim Crane's credibility is pretty strong. Not going longer than 5 years on Correa, right call. Not giving Bregman whatever he wants, right call. Regrets on Garrett Cole? I don't think so. George Springer actually is a bit resurgent right now for the Jays, but no regrets there if you're the Astros. Pena's under team control for 2 more years. So he's not becoming a free agent until he's 30. So if you do a 5-year deal with him, you're paying a shortstop. His age is 30, 31, and 32 seasons. Okay. But if you do one of these Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts 10, 11-year deals, which certainly is what Scott Boras is going to be coming for, where you're committing to pay a guy 37, 38, 39 years old, where obviously Pena's athleticism is going to erode in his 30s. Right, the Bogaerts contract's already a big problem for the San Diego Padres. Trey Turner, very good player. Let's see how they feel about paying $28 million per year when he's 38, 39, and 40 years old. 6, 7, and 8 years from now. So Pena, the next 2 seasons, he's making 4.1 this year. He's going to get a big jump off this year in arbitration, but he's not going to go to 20 million. It's not how salary arbitration works. So let's see it next year, he gets 9 million. And the year after that, he gets 18 million. We'll double it. That's 2 years, $27 million. I know, fun with numbers. If you add 30 million per year for another 3 seasons, that's a 5-year, $117 million extension that comes in at a little below $24 million per year. I think that's pretty fair. Remember, Pena was not a big bonus baby guy. He didn't have that generational security yet. This is his first year of making real major league money, if you will. But if he wants 10, 11 years, nobody should be critical of Jim Crane if he says, homie, don't play that.
Yeah, I will say this. I think he was interested in an extension. That's why they were talking. It feels like he wants to stay here and play with Altuve. But when you're looking at 5 years, $100 million, And then you look at what Soto got, and you look at what they think Tucker's going to get and what Correa ended up giving. And even with Bregman, short term, but average per year is astronomical. I'm sure Pena was thinking like, maybe they're lowballing me a little bit. But at the same time, what if Pena starts scuffling? And, he has a stretch here at the back half of this season, or maybe for the next month, if that were to somehow happen. Would that make him want to come back and negotiate again? But we know now that he's with Boris, I think that's out the window, because unless Pena drops off, he's going to wait for him to hit free agency, because that's where you get the most money. And then my other issue is with the Astros being so successful this year with guys like Colton Gordon and what Cam Smith's turned into, and you lose Bregman and Paredes slips right in. It almost makes Crane's case that I shouldn't want to pay anybody in free agency, because we're going to backfill it with cheaper talent that'll come up and replace these guys. So it's almost as if playing this well is limiting the money that they can make with the Astros, but somebody else will give it to them. So I think enjoy Pena while you have it. Hopefully he wins, helps be a part of another World Series over the next 3 years, and enjoy it. And that's where Dana Brown comes in the draft. If it looks like Pena is going to be a goner, you better identify somebody that can be your next guy at shortstop, that can swing the bat and not just be a great defensive player, and a guy. Pena's speed too just gives him another element in the clutch factor. And it doesn't hurt on your resume when you're negotiating a big deal, when you have ALCS MVP, World Series MVP on your resume. That kind of helps.
Yeah, although Adolis Garcia has one of those lines, and where is he 2 years later? If you're an Astros fan, don't be hyperventilating over this, though. Right? Pena's under control for 2 more seasons. Hunter Brown's under control for 3 more seasons. Enjoy what you have, because you're going to have it for a good while longer, minimum.
Yeah, Josh, you and I were talking before we jumped on live here about how, it's been talked about Pena got to work out with Correa over the offseason. Pena credits Correa with helping him work on his swing, which obviously he's had a breakthrough season. We were wondering how much influence there was also into, hey, maybe you should look at my rep, because you can really max out that money once you get the opportunity to. Look, November of last year, we got the same news that Hunter Brown had hired Boris. So I just wonder, is this a sign of things to come with Hunter Brown? Like he's also going to play hardball in negotiations. Obviously, pitching at this, I mean, he's pitching at a Cy Young level right now as we're doing this episode. And we already knew he was good, and he's gotten even better this season, seemingly. Are we looking at a sign of things to come with Brown, where we're just like, good luck getting a team-friendly early negotiated extension? And could this also lead to perhaps maybe Cam Smith getting an extension earlier than you would see normally, just because you want to avoid him signing with some hard-nosed rep that's going to screw up an opportunity to be able to extend him early?
Yeah, Cam Smith's exciting, and there's reason to believe that he has future star potential, but he's 5 seasons after this one away from free agency. X factor. What is the next collective bargaining agreement? If there's some huge shift that players can get to free agency after just 4 years or 5 years. But let's be clear, as good as Cam Smith has been, he's not what Jackson Merrill was last year for the Padres. He's not what Bobby Witt was when the Royals signed him to an 11-year extension. Corbin Carroll with the Diamondbacks. So that the Astros should be rushing to the bank to offer Cam Smith 8 years, $110 million or something like that. It's just not necessary, right? He's not an established star at this point, and he's 5 years away from possible free agency after the 2030 season. So Cam Smith would not be a priority. He's 2 years away from salary arbitration after the season. Again, if that system remains intact in the new CBA.
For me, with Hunter Brown, if he keeps this up, I mean, we're looking at like a Garrett Cole type contract for him. I mean, how could you not? I mean, his numbers, we talked about him earlier, his ERA is in the 1s. If he keeps pitching like this over the next couple of years, I don't expect him to pitch in the 1s, but if he's one of the handful of starters in baseball that you consider the best, there's a decent chance he starts the All-Star game if he keeps this up, in my opinion. then yeah, Hunter Brown may be priced out. And Pena, we already discussed that. So I would turn my attention to Paredes. And here's why. He's playing a great third base for you. He's a guy that he really benefits from playing in Houston in Dyken Park, the way he pulls the ball. So if you send him to like he really struggled with the Cubs last year. He's a guy where his swing, he can be a much bigger asset to you based on where you play every day. And Paredes knows that too. So you wonder if, they can't reach a deal with these other guys. He could be somebody you target because he's still in his 20s and maybe they could strike a deal with him. He's a great fit for the ballpark and he seems to really fit in with the culture of the Astros.
Gents, last or final thoughts on this big weekend series or whatever you want to hit on before we're out the door.
I'll just follow up on the returns of Tucker and Presley. They're going to have big crowds, not specifically because Tuck and Press are back. Plenty of Cubs fans will be in attendance, but two really good teams, identical records as they start the series. And as with the Phillies here midweek, this is a plausible World Series preview. And wouldn't that be the denouement for 2025 on the trade if they were to meet in October? So two good teams getting after it. The Cubs will not face Hunter Brown, but Framber's going to come back on 4 days rest and pitch Sunday. The Cubs lineup, they have 5 separate guys. OPS better than 800, right? The Astros have Jeremy Pena, the end. So the Cubs can mash Kyle Tucker, the headliner, but it doesn't begin there. It doesn't end there. The Cubs, meanwhile, just do not have the pitching, starting or bullpen that the Astros do. But in a best of 3 series, who the heck knows?
I'll be looking at kind of these injury updates, right? There's a possibility the McCullers might pitch on Saturday is what we're hearing. That would be great if the Astros could get McCullers back, and because you don't want him out for too long. He was actually starting to look pretty good there. So hopefully he stays healthy. And then the other one, we saw Spencer Arrighetti throwing from a bullpen. He posted a video on Instagram, looked pretty good. So, I don't expect him in the near future, but at least he's throwing off a mound. He looks like Spencer Arrighetti. Looks like he can help you as we come along. Brandon Walter struggled in his last outing. He's going to go against the Cubs. We'll see if he can kind of right that start. But look, we can't complain about what's been coming up from Sugarland. They have been doing their job. But the thought that you can get McCullers back and Arrighetti to add to this already dominant offense, and then Yordan might be around the corner. Some other guys getting healthy too on offense. I mean, that the fact that they're doing this without a lot of their big guys encourages me for they could get even better, guys.
Yeah, and we continue to get updates about Javier and Garcia throwing, so we'll see how that evolves during the season. But a lot of reasons to be optimistic that as good as this team is right now, they have potential to get better. One last reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to click like on the video. Everybody's here right now. We have so many people live watching us right now. Thank you for coming in and joining us. If you're here, hit like on the video. That's all we ask. It's really, really easy. And subscribe if you want to. And if you listen on apps like Apple or Spotify, give us a 5-star rating while you're here. We appreciate it. Next scheduled episode drops on Monday, so make sure you subscribe to this channel because we also drop emergency episodes as big news breaks. So make sure those notifications are on. For Charlie and Josh, I'm Brandon saying so long. Thanks for listening. You stay classy, Houston, and go Astros.